Welcome to the Living Superhuman Fitness Podcast, where we take you inside our gym, CrossFit Palm Beach, each week. It's here that we are creating new superhumans every day, transforming people's lives, helping them reach a level of health they never knew possible. We strive to answer your most burning questions on fitness, health, nutrition, training, motivation, mindset, lifestyle, and more. If you have a question, please email us at info@crossfitpalmbeach.com. You can also learn more on our blog, livingsuperhuman.com. And if you have a moment, we'd love a review from you on iTunes. All right, it's time. Let's stop being average and start living superhuman. Hey guys, welcome to CrossFit Palm Beach. This is the Living Superhuman Fitness Podcast. My name is Andrew Frezza, and I'm joined today by
Anthony Frezza. You guys can call me Tony.
Whitney Stevenson.
And I'm Steve LaRue, the funny sounding one.
So today's podcast, we're going to be talking about the 4 attributes of a champion. So if you guys have been following along on our podcast, back in January, we did the competitors training athlete camp. A bunch of us did it, and we did a lot of topics on that. We did a pacing episode. We did one on mental toughness, and this is probably the last main topic that we're going to be talking about from that weekend, which is the 4 attributes of a champion. And we'll go through all 4 and kind of break them down here. So this is something that can help you guys in CrossFit. It can help you outside the gym as well. I think that was probably the biggest thing that we all experienced from that weekend is how many of the concepts we learned apply everywhere in life, not just inside the walls of the gym. So we're going to go right into number 1. The number 1 attribute of a champion is someone who is coachable. So what does coachable mean to you guys? Do you guys have any good examples you want to share?
I'd say someone that's coachable is humble. They're willing to accept criticism. They're not stuck in their ways. So if they've been doing something for a long time or they've been doing something under other coaches, they're not afraid to take a tip and use it, take a couple steps back in order to take more steps forward.
I think seeing that within the walls of CrossFit Palm Beach, we see athletes that are coachable are often the ones that tend to develop a lot quicker and dial in their movements and are willing to work on their weaknesses. And the people that are coachable just within our community really seem to exude that type of mindset from the get-go. Even if it's a brand new athlete, we see it in CrossFit, we see it in our Beach Fit program, that whether they're competing to go to CrossFit Games or they're competing just to be a little bit better than they were yesterday, the ones that are coachable, that listen and understand and are responsive, are really the ones that are going to make the most progress compared to a naturally gifted athlete that is not as responsive to what the coach is trying to deliver.
Yeah, you are always really good about this, Steve, is asking questions. I mean, when you're actually seeking out coaching and not just like waiting for it to come to you, I think that's a good sign of a coachable athlete.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like the people I find that are most coachable are the ones that are like seeking growth. So they're always kind of asking questions or even telling me what's going on with them. Like, oh, my shoulder's bothering me today. And just because they're not doing the workout or they're going to scale down doesn't mean they're not coachable. It just means that they're even more coachable. Like, all right, your shoulder's bothering you, let's change it up, let's do something different. And like, they know that by talking to me or asking me a question about their shoulder or whatever it is, that they're gonna end up getting better by maybe not doing that workout for the day or scaling down or doing something different. So even somebody, taking a step back, like Tony was talking about, is actually making steps forward, even though that day they might not be on the leaderboard or something.
Yeah, I think Ben says it really well. Gone through the seminar twice now, as he says, we all think of a coachable as the person who looks the coach in the eye and shakes their head and nods and says, "Yeah, I'll try that," but that's not really good enough. And that the person who's truly coachable is the one who's already pretty good at something. And when their coach says, "Hey, if you work on this thing for hours and hours on end, you may get a little bit better," that person's like, okay, I'm gonna put in all that time and I'm gonna try to prove my coach right. I'm gonna do whatever it takes to prove my coach right. rather than what a lot of us do is like, I'll try, but in the back of my head, I'm like, yeah, I know this kind of works for me. And when you think of a champion is someone who does not accept good enough. When you say something's good enough, you're actually being very complacent. You're not doing those steps to grow, as Whitney mentioned. And champions, they look at good enough and they say that's the opposite of who I want to be.
Yeah, a quote from Ben, speaking of complacency, he said, if you're complacent in something, you're complacent in everything. So.
It's deep.
It's deep, yeah, it's deep. He brought up the coachable aspect when we talked about, he showed us a new way to climb the rope, doing the heel hook on the rope climb. And a lot of people know they climb the rope a certain way. And he's like, guys, try this. Like, it may shave off a couple seconds each time you go up and down the rope. And a lot of people struggle with it at first, but I know after working with it from January now, we're seeing some athletes do really well with it. And so they had to take a step back, go a little slower up the rope, maybe fiddle with it a little bit on their legs, but now they're really starting to get it, and it's helping a lot.
Yeah, we had some athletes that were really good at the J-hook, like really, really good, that have committed to that and have spent a couple months being worse at rope climbs to hopefully still get a little bit better, which is really cool. It's really cool to see in our membership how many people have stuck with that heel hook and are continuing to try it in workouts, even though they know in that given day, if they were trying to get the best score, they'd be better off doing the J-hook. But they have this more long-term mindset, which is really cool. And one of the best examples on a large scale, if you guys follow professional golf at all, Tiger Woods really defines this aspect really well, more than anybody, is when he was at his prime. I mean, he won his first Masters, and he set a record for the largest margin of victory. So most people would do that and say, I'm one of the best in the world. I'm on pace to be even better because of how young I am. There's no need to change anything. And when his coach suggested that he completely overhaul his swing because it could be better, it might be better, he was willing to suck for months on end, or even up to years in order to have the streaks of winning 4 majors in a row and things like that were just unheard of in golf, that we had never seen before. So that really, if you guys follow golf, that is a great example of that coachable athlete. Cool. Anything else? Coachable? All right, number 2. So number 2 is confident. And we'll try to share this video. There's a great video that Ben created, which is summarize confidence. A lot of us think of confidence as going into an event. Maybe it's a workout. Maybe it's a 5K or something, and knowing that you can win. Like, that's a confident athlete. It's someone who goes into that event and knows that they can win that event. But if you look at Matt Frazier as an example, at the CrossFit Games, he had the most dominant performance ever at the CrossFit Games and didn't win a single event. He took a lot of second places, but he didn't win a single event. So if he was focused on going into that heat and being like, man, I didn't win, this person's better than me, how could he possibly be confident if he didn't win a single event? But when you look at the totality of what he did, it ended up being one of the most dominant performances in the history of the CrossFit Games, which is really cool. So what does confidence mean to you guys, and where do you see that as a strength in your athletes?
Well, for me, confidence, it was exactly what you're talking about. Like, knowing that I was gonna, like, especially when I was swimming, knowing, like, basically who I was racing, because I always knew, and then knowing, like, I'm gonna win this 100-meter backstroke, or I'm gonna get this certain time, or I'm gonna touch the wall first. And, like, so that has been a huge, like, just transformation pretty much in the last, like, 2 months for me, just kind of, like, switching how I'm defining confidence. And more recently, I think for me, it's not like thoughts. It's not like a string of thoughts that I put together that make me confident. It's a state of what I'm in, and that state is, for me, present. Like, I know that if I'm in a workout and I'm just present to what's going on, I'm gonna win, or I'm gonna be a champion. Like, I just need to be there with myself. If I'm in the other lane looking at somebody else, looking at how they're doing it, comparing it to how I'm doing it, I have no confidence and I'm not present. So for me, confidence and being present goes hand in hand.
Personally, and going off what Whitney just said, for me, it's racing dirt bikes and racing off-road, and when you get to an event and there's almost 700 people racing, and a lot of that has to do with equipment to a certain extent, and you have guys that are on $12,000 to $15,000 machines that are set up the best that they can be, and yes, that's going to play a huge advantage. And I would used to arrive at the track and see, wow, that guy's got brand new, and this is looking fast and that's looking good. And there's always going to be people like that. There's always going to be somebody that's better and stronger and faster, and that used to be a huge block for me. And it was a case of there's no way I can get ahead of that person or stay out front for that long. And as soon as I changed that switch to, can I arrive on the day, find my flow, and like Whitney said, be present in that moment and know that what I'm doing to the best of my ability and the best of my machine's ability is 150% of what I can give, that is the confidence that I need to have an awesome day. And whether that results in a win or second to last, I'm walking away from that day feeling extremely successful and to a point even more confident because of bringing my best to the table for that day. And that was a really difficult thing to embrace and almost accept, in the beginning, rather than winning is everything. You have to be the absolute best. And with exploring a different type of racing in a different country, that's really helped me kind of find that missing link or that missing piece.
Yeah, as someone who's trying to find their way in a sport in a new location, there's so many things that are outside of your control, right? There's the equipment, the where you're going to race, when you're going to race, that other people have more time to train than you, but really all that's in your control is what is your effort that day. And that's what gives you confidence, knowing that, hey, no matter what happens, I'm going to give my best effort because that's what I can control today. And the athletes who become champions are really focused on that present moment. Ben talks about maximizing your minutes. What can I do in this minute right now that's going to get me in my goals later on down the road, not focusing on the million things you could be doing, but what's the best thing I can be doing right now in this minute to get me to where I want to be. Cool, so we're going to move on to number 3, and number 3 is passionate, okay? Passionate means loving what you do, but here's where the sort of a stipulation needs to be made. Some people love the idea of being a champion, being the fittest man or woman on earth. Who wouldn't want to be that person? But where you need to be passionate about what you're doing is not the idea of the end result, but the idea of the day-to-day grind. You need to love that day-to-day grind so much that the end result doesn't even matter. And that's where passion usually lies. Going back to the golf example, a lot of people think they're passionate about golf. They like the idea of going out with friends and having a few beers and hitting the ball around and then hanging out in the clubhouse for 2 hours and watching more golf on TV, which is terribly boring, but they do that. And they love everything that goes around golf, but if you ask them, hey, I want you to hit 100 chip shots from this distance that you're weak at, they wouldn't really love to do that. Most of them are not enjoying that. They're not enjoying the full 18 holes that come with the round and being out there 4 hours if they weren't drinking beers. They just love the idea of being really good at golf.
Yeah, I think passionate on a champion's level is much different than on an everyday person level. I mean, just seeing Katrin here for that weekend and watching her it's in January and the Open is 2 months away and regionals is so many months away. I mean, she's totally tapped into her training, tapped into her diet. I mean, she comes out to one of the nicest restaurants in Jupiter and she pre-portions her own meals and doesn't even eat out at the nice restaurant. I mean, that's pretty cool to see. She did the whole comp train with us, even doing her own side work. Ben calls her the sled dog, and she identifies with that. The sled dog, of course, being they don't want to be tied up. They want to keep running all day, all night. They just want to keep moving, and they hate being tied up. They can't stand it. So that the champion really embodies that sled dog approach to their sport or their craft, where they just cannot stand not doing that thing. They just have to be doing it.
I was really excited for this number 3, this passionate, because for the listeners and those of you guys who don't really know the background of the past 4 years, is that trying to get settled in this country and trying to get a visa and now a green card and just really sinking my roots into a brand new place. My love and my passion for racing and riding dirt bikes was put on the back burner because it was, a hobby and not important for surviving and making headway. And despite 4 years away from that and off of that flame and that love that we have, whether it's CrossFit or swimming or riding or whatever, it was still so deep inside me and so ready to go that I knew, hey, it's okay, whether it's a month or a year or 2 years or 4 years, it will come back. It will be there and it's not going anywhere. And at the time, it sucks. It's really shitty. I just want to ride every single day. And that's what makes me happy. That's what I love to do. But that time off made me appreciate everything that much more. So now, when I do get on the bike and I do have that ability to express my passion and my love, it's just that much more meaningful day to day and when things do get difficult. Yesterday's track conditions, it was extremely hot out, it was dry, there was no water on the track, and the lady was there, she's like, oh, we're open today, but it's gonna be kind of tough out there. And I said, I don't care. I'm there, I get to express what I love to do, and having passion for something is gonna make you absolutely unstoppable. I can, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, but personally, I can guarantee that if you're doing everything that you can in your power to express what that sport means to you, you're going to go extremely far. And that's going to carry on through to everyday life, down to the way you cut your vegetables. If you do that with the same passion and with the same enthusiasm and the same work ethic that you do for your training and your craft, it's going to make you for an unstoppable human being. And that just speaking and thinking about fires me up like you can't believe. It's a pretty powerful entity to have.
Yeah, I like to think of passion as like blending the lines between work and play. Like, what would you be doing? What do you do in your spare time when you have nothing to do? Like, what are you spending your time watching YouTube videos on when you have nothing to do on a Saturday afternoon? And that usually can bring you closer to passionate. I think it takes a lot of self-awareness to find it, because there's so many things in our lives that it's like, yeah, I want to be rich. Yeah, I want to have a six-pack. Yeah, I want to be great at CrossFit. But like, it takes a lot of like internal digging to be like, okay, what are the things that I really enjoy, the work that goes into being these things, or how can I create that in my life? And it definitely takes some tough questions, and it takes a lot of time to really dig deep on what you're passionate about.
Yeah, I feel like confidence is kind of bred from having passion. So, oh my gosh, there's so many things I want to say. I'm getting jumbled. I shared something on social media, and I can't even remember his name. It was the Miami Heat basketball player. He hit the 3-point.
Ray Allen.
Okay,
yes.
So it was Ray Allen, and it was Game 6, and he hit this amazing shot. And in this clip about it, he gets interviewed, and they're like, "What were you thinking? What was going through your mind? You just get lucky." And he like looks into the camera, and he's like, "I wish they asked me like how I prepared for that shot, because I wasn't thinking about anything. I put my body through so many drills, and I was under high stress, and I've put my body in high stress drills where I'm making that shot so many times, it was automatic." And it was because he was so passionate about what he did that he was able to just take mundane practice and make it so important to him. And so when he knew that when he would get into this situation, down 3 points, 5 seconds left, Game 6, that his body had an automatic response. Like that confidence was arrived to him from being passionate for however many years he was practicing that shot for. So it wasn't like this like foxhole, like, oh, I'm gonna make this shot, I hope I do. Like, that didn't happen for him. Like, he knew that he knew the shot was going in before he even had the ball in his hands. And I thought that was so just true. Like, I love that. There's another thing I've seen and I've read about a little bit, just about your state of mind. And Brent Fikowski talks about this a lot. He like lives his life in a state that he would be comfortable competing in. So he's constantly in a state of mind that if he were to be in the middle of a workout at regionals, he would have the same mindset, which to me is like so powerful. And it brings me back to a couple of sayings like we have in my old gym in California has in their gym. I think it says, everything is everything.
Yep.
And like, I love this saying, how you do anything is how you do everything. So how you brush your teeth at night. If you're lazy and brush 2 front teeth and just go into bed, like that's probably showing up in the gym somewhere. You're probably not putting your weights away. You're probably not finishing the pull on your clean because you're cutting yourself short. And in so many areas of your life, if you're doing it in one, it's showing up in the other. And that's what I love about this talk about confidence and passion. Like if you're passionate about being present and you can do that in your life in aspects outside of the gym, when push comes to shove and you're in a scenario where you need to be present, it's going to be automatic because you practice it so much.
Yeah, that reminds me of a quote is, you don't rise to the level of your hopes, you fall to the level of your training.
Yeah.
So we all kind of have this like, oh, I'll step it up on game day, but really you're actually gonna fall backwards to what did you do on a day-to-day basis. It's like putting a microscope on your day-to-day routine, basically.
The one thing that you briefly, that we've all kind of touched on that I just want to re-emphasize is if you're passionate about something, you're willing to put in everything there is to make that entity work or that craft or that sport. So if we take CrossFit, for example, and you're absolutely passionate about pursuing and doing as best you can, there's days where weighing and measuring your food is going to be a pain in the butt, or doing extra mobility in your side work, or being sore and feeling kind of tight and stiff for days on end, and that can be the non-glamorous side of whatever that is. And for riding, it's cleaning a dirty bike and changing the air filter and doing the oil, and getting frustrated when things break, and the list goes on with whatever it is, but it's that passion that pulls you through that stuff, and it's finding that ability to embrace and love all aspects of what you're doing, because it's pulling you to that point or that moment or that race or that community or that lifestyle that embodies everything within that craft, and that's amazing to see, especially in this gym, in this community, is it's like-minded people like that are almost, you can feel that energy around everybody, and that is really kind of enhancing every aspect of everything that it is to be, the CrossFit athlete or a racer or a swimmer, or the list goes on and on. And that's also pretty damn magical.
Ben had a really good example that he shared with us at the CompTrain camp about how if you're trying to get to a champion's level in a certain sport, there's kind of a range of acceptable behavior. So he drew like A and B, and there was like this cone going down from A to B. So like when you're at A, say you're a basketball player, you start off in rec leagues and youth leagues. Really all you have to do is know the rules and be in somewhat good shape. You get to high school, it's a different level, right? You gotta start, working on your game day preparation. How do you prepare for games? You're starting to learn drills, all right, and certain plays that you run as a team. Then you get to college, and you're like, oh crap, like I'm gonna have to do some weightlifting to step it up with the big boys, and maybe look at what I'm eating or not drinking on the weekends, right? And then hopefully you get to the professional level, and everything you do at the professional level is under that microscope. How you sleep, how you eat, everything you do in your life, how do you train? You're watching tape of yourself, you're watching tape of your opponents. And then from there, even there's a champion level, there's a professional, and then there's a professional who's a champion. And I think it's the people that act like levels above they are, right? So if you're in high school and you're doing the things that a professional athlete does, you're gonna be the champion of your level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely see that. Just looking at our gym, we've had episodes about like practice, training, and competition, and like what falls into different categories. I think the people that embody what it means to be a champion spend a lot of time in that practice zone. They're doing stuff with a very just like deep conscious thought of like, how can I move just a little bit better? How can I feel what it feels like in my kip to tweak something to squeeze my butt just a little bit harder, to get my feet a little bit closer together. And they're gonna spend time before class and after class to kind of like hone in these little things that may have a less than a 1% difference in a competition later on down the road, or in a class workout later on down the road. All right, so last one is positive. Okay, so positive means not complaining. That's number one. So no matter what it is that comes up, you're constantly focused on the positive side. You are not complaining about the negative side, whether it be the pain in the workout, not having your double unders, whatever it might be that might come up and feel like a negative. What are other things that you guys think of with a positive athlete?
The example of, if your thoughts were on a loudspeaker, would you want everyone to hear them? And for me, it's still no. Trying to get over it, this is probably the one I need to work on personally the most, but getting better with it. And it's also like getting done with a workout and like congratulating people and seeing the next class come in and not saying like, that was awful, because that's negative. You can be joking and have the best intentions, but you are putting a negative comment out into the world. So I think that's something I know I need to work on, and definitely see it in the gym.
Yeah, it just shows what you're focusing on. If you're saying those things, it might be in a joking way, but that's what your body's going to be drawn to. There's so many examples of like, don't think of a pink elephant, and you think of a pink elephant. Or Ben had us do this thing where look around the room and find everything in the room that's blue. Okay, you got 30 seconds, count everything you can find in the room that's blue. And then when you're done, he said, who found 20 things in the room that's blue? Almost everyone raised their hand. And then he said, okay, who found 20 things in the room that were red? And no one raised their hand because they were looking for things that were blue. So when we're looking for things that are painful or that hurt us, we're gonna see more of that, we're gonna experience more of that. When we look for things that are positive, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy where we find more of that positive stuff.
Yeah, I'm with you, Tony. I'm still working on that.
I think we all are.
I'm still working on just like the positive affirmation when I'm done. When I'm done with a workout. I think that's like super important, and I've seen some pretty powerful examples. There's an Instagram page called, it's like Affirmations Guru or someone. Anyway, she takes this example, she cuts an apple in half, and both halves of the apple are exposed to the same air, the same room, the same sunlight, temperature, whatever. But one half of the apple, she just yells at. She's like, you're terrible, awful, you're not ever gonna live a good life, you're the most disgusting apple I've ever seen. And then the other half of the apple, she actually praises. And it's like a week-long or 10-day-long experiment. And at the end of 10 days, they both have like mold and they look disgusting, but the one that had received negative affirmations is awful, like completely unedible, covered in mold, way more bruised than the one that received positive affirmations. Like, it's still moldy, but you could probably eat a piece of it, and like, it's not totally bruised. Like, it just looks way better. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's doing this with an apple. Like, it's still a living thing, but I was like, man, like, that's crazy. Like, just seeing that, like the actual tangible effect of negative thinking or negative words on just a piece of fruit, and imagine what it's doing to your mind, and to your performance. So I'm with you. I'm still working on it, but
she was spitting on it as
no,
she yelled
I
at
don't
us.
think she was spitting on it, but
You're awful.
I'll try to post a link on our community page. It's pretty cool.
That's funny.
Riding in South Africa, our terrain and our availability and accessibility to riding was really rugged, rough, in-your-face type of terrain. We would climb mountains, we would be out in the sun, we would be in rocky riverbeds, and it would be gradient and really some of the most harsh but amazing terrain to ride. Athletes refer to it as hard enduro riding. And there's a saying that's cultivated from the Afrikaans language that's vasbyt, and directly translated it means to bite down hard, to just grit your teeth and bear it. And there were weekends and competitions where the going gets extremely difficult, and you're in out there on the bike for anywhere from 8 to 10 hours, and there's no vending machine or AC or a friendly face to help you along the way. It's just you're on your own, and you can either carry that mindset of I can't do this is too hard, it's too hot, the bike's not performing well, I feel like crap, or you can carry that fuss bait, which again will carry through to every aspect of what you're doing and performing. And it's amazing to see over time how athletes that I grew up riding with, and their positivity and their mental outlook on all of this and where they are now in their careers is absolutely amazing. There's a couple of South Africans that are on the global circuit now that are competing in some of the top hard enduros in the world, and they're 19 and 21 years old and absolutely crushing it. And they had that great positive outlook, and it wasn't kicking the bike when you got stuck and sitting under a tree and sulking. It was, let me fuss bait, let me grit my teeth and get on with it. And that's really one thing that I found carried on through when the going got tough in a brand new country. You got to bite down and embrace the bad, because it makes the good that much sweeter.
Yeah, I always think about now the E plus R equals O. So the event plus your response is your outcome. And I feel like for a lot of us, we kind of get away with, well, this happened and I did kind of dread it and complain about it, but the outcome wasn't that bad. It still did well. I still, PR'd my whatever by 5 seconds, but you could have been even better. I think we allow ourselves to complain. We give ourselves that excuse to kind of oh, well, it was okay because I still did good. And it's but you could have done better. So, try it on. Next time you have an event, don't complain about it. Figure out what your response is going to be to it, and then see what the outcome is then, without any complaints.
Dominic was just chatting about that in the last podcast, about how his mindset with his nutrition in the beginning was, oh, I just went for a run, I can have those extra 12,000 calories, or I benched today, so let me have a whole pizza. And we try and back that up the whole time. So that's definitely following off of that.
So Whitney and Tony were talking about the voice that comes up in a workout, and I just had some quick things that I jotted down of ways to maybe tame that. So a lot of times that voice, if it was over a loudspeaker, we wouldn't want anybody to hear it. But if we think about what our coaches are telling us in that workout, usually it's super positive stuff. So we'd like to hopefully sound more like our coaches to ourselves in that workout, saying things like, you can do it, hang on to the bar, 1 more rep, 3 more reps, whatever it might be. If you can have maybe some kind of mantra in there that's going to be something you can reinforce and overcome or overpower that voice, that can be a good way of keeping you positive in a workout. Another thing is, when that workout hits its peak intensity and it hurts so bad, find someone else in the room to encourage. So get out of your own head and your own pain and think of someone else that you can help encourage through that workout, and that can be a good way to change your focus in that. And then the third thing was, when you get done with the workout, it's really easy to go straight to that thought of, that was so hard. We say, oh, that was awful, that hurt so much. If you can take that time to refocus and say, you know what, I'm proud of my effort, I gave it my best, and change the narrative in that moment, it will then fuel your future workouts, and you'll be excited about the next workout rather than dreading it because your thought was, that was awful.
And to be a little more specific on the first point about what you're saying to yourself, there's a difference between saying, don't drop the bar, and hang on to the bar. Right? Because you're saying, don't do that. And your body's going to do it or want to do it, So it's don't give up. And it's oh, but I want to give up. Right?
Don't eat that donut.
Don't eat that donut.
I didn't even know there was a donut. Now there's a donut I can eat? Jesus.
But you want to find the affirmations that are positive. So, right, it's keep going, hold on to that bar, right? And so, I'm giving my own athletes permission to catch us doing it, because I know we even say it as coaches. We're don't drop the bar, don't drop from the bar, And like those are really have a negative connotation when you can say, hang on, you got this. You know, so definitely catch us when we're saying it, and we'll try to catch you when we think you're saying it to yourself.
That reminds me of David Goggins' 40% rule. He says when you think you're done and you think you can't go anymore and you think you're at your threshold, you're only 40% of the way. And it's amazing how your mind will pull you out of that horrible hole when you think you're in that bottom of that valley. There's still a lot of peaks to come after that. So always trying to apply that 40% rule in terms of reps and rounds or whatever it is.
Yeah, I think
Let's use that in every podcast, I think. Work it in.
Cool. I think it's a great place to end. Live your life like a champion.